to make sure that we are in record mode. So this webinar will be available as a recorded webinar afterwards. So if you do want to check something, you can. So I want to kick off with the statement that I like to make, and that is the cloud is dead, long live the cloud. And it's quite a controversial statement, but the reason I make the statement is that cloud is actually becoming so prevalent in all of the technology that we use that it's hardly actually worth mentioning in terms of it. And for example, we don't go and mention electricity for a kettle. If we speak about using a kettle, we don't say, well, have you used the electric kettle? Have you used the electric microwave? It's just utilizing that. And the fact that electricity is being supplied to it is just the means of making it work. And so it's really very much the same with cloud. Cloud is kind of the technology behind making all of these services, whether you're talking about infrastructure as a service, whether you're talking about platform as a service, or a SaaS, a software as a service application. Cloud is just facilitating it and making the whole aspect of the thing work. What it tends to do, though, is when we speak about cloud to our customers, is it actually makes them a bit fearful, because where is this cloud thing? Where is the data sitting? How does it work? And yet if you come back to them and you speak to them about their internet banking and you ask them, well, did you consider, where is the data going when you're doing your internet banking? When you're using Facebook, when you're using LinkedIn, where is that data sitting? And they don't think about those kind of things. And suddenly it becomes very real to them that it's just about how these things work. If we have a look at the Gartner hype curve, and this is the hype curve that was released last year, this is the latest one on that, you will see that many of the technologies that are on this hype curve, and these are the technologies that are going to be mainstream in the next 5 to 10 years, the majority of them. Almost all of them, and I'd say about 92% of those technologies that are on the screen. And here I'm looking at things like the connected home, I'm looking at human augmentation, I'm looking at 3D printing, neurobusiness, data science, prescriptive analytics, Internet of Things, which we're hearing so much of at the moment. All of these require cloud technology as a facilitator in order to make them work. And yet you don't see them all being prefaced by the word cloud on that. So I think the sooner we get away from actually mentioning cloud, the sooner we will have a far greater ease of adoption with our clients, because they'll feel far more secure about actually using it, utilizing it, and the fear will disappear. So, but if anybody does want to know, well, what is this cloud thing? There's a wonderful definition. And the official definition is it's the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or a personal computer. Very simple, and with the key word there being hosted on the internet. So utilizing the internet to achieve any of that. And here we have those three things. We have infrastructure as a service, we have platform as a service, and we have software as a service. And 2 weeks ago, I did a webinar that explained what are those three things, and gave you a very easy way of actually explaining infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and SaaS to your customers, and that was using the analogy of pizza as a service. And if you want, you can view that on our recorded webinars on our website. So I just want to quickly touch on this concept that Gartner came up with towards the end of last year, and that is the concept of two-speed IT. And really what they were saying is that today's modern IT department in a company has got a lot of expectations that are being placed on them. And those expectations are that they are able to run and function at two different speeds. The first speed of IT is about keeping the lights on. And maybe that's a bad analogy to use in today's Eskom times. But really it is about keeping the lights on. It's about keeping the business going and about making sure that the network speed is good, the backups are happening, etc. It's the traditional things about what IT has normally been focused on. But now the new demands that are being placed on the CIO and the IT managers is this speed to IT. And the speed to IT is extremely agile. It's the ability to create a competitive advantage for the business from IT. It's about, here we find an idea today, let's adapt something, let's go to market with a new application, and they haven't got time to wait 6 to 12 months for IT to develop it. It has to be very, very quickly developed. It has to be agile. They have to be able to change the demands on the system as it happens, etc. So if you look at these demands that are being placed on your customers, that's speed one of keeping things going, and speed two, the ability to be agile and create the competitive advantage. You have a great opportunity here, and that is that you as the reseller can either assist them with speed one, the ability for you, for example, in this great instance, to take care of their backups, to make sure that their business is secure, that they have continuity in their business. Or it could be on speed two, and that is creating the competitive advantage for them and being able to develop that application, etc. Or you could do both. But typically, IT departments are finding this is a great challenge because it's difficult to actually focus on both at once. So what First for Cloud does is it takes this challenge that current IT departments are having, and that is that people within the organization are utilizing many different pieces of cloud software out there, many different pieces of public cloud software. And for each of these services that they're using, they have a separate login, they have a separate support number, they have a separate contract they've signed, and a separate bill. And so they've got these multiple feeds that are going in to into the organization. Very, very difficult to manage, and IT managers are feeling very much like this cloud stuff is coming at them at a rate of knots. They don't know what to accept into their organization, what to reject, and they don't want to stifle the creativity or the progress that's being made in the organization as well. So our role as First Distribution has always been to help our partners, businesses, to help grow their businesses and to enrich their offerings that they have. So we asked, well, what if? What if we could supply you, as our partner, the best of breed global and local cloud solutions? If we could simplify that consumption through a single portal, and that portal is your portal that you can offer through to your customers, so it's your branded portal. If you can offer your customers one bill regardless of how many services they're consuming. So for example, if they're taking CRM from you, if they're utilizing an ERP system, if they are utilizing online backup from you, you can provide them with one bill at the end of the month for all of those services combined together. You can also give them the ability to manage their users. So if they're using a Dropbox type product from us and one of their people leave that organization, typically with Dropbox, as they walk out the door, that information walks out the door with them. Under this circumstance, they can disconnect that user from all of their cloud services. So essentially what you're doing is you are giving the control back to the IT manager in this instance. Most importantly, it is one relationship, and that's the relationship with you, the reseller, with your customer, regardless of what vendor's products they're actually consuming. So there you see the simplification on the screen of what we're doing, and the ability to take all of those different products into the First for Cloud catalog. We aggregate them. We then allow the reseller to have their own web store, your own branded web store, and you can allow your customers to consume those products through your web store. It's a single sign-on environment, so all that they need to do is log into your web store, and then they can access all of the products that they have purchased from you. You might be asking, well, how do you make money out of this? Well, you make money in exactly the same way as you do with any product that you normally buy from a distributor, and that is margin. So there is margin on each product, and the margins range from anywhere from highly commoditized products like a hosted exchange, which would be on an 8% type basis, all the way going up to some good margins like 37%. Typically, we found that the web stores tend to average out their margins at around about the 20% point. But there's also the opportunity for you to make money on offering services through to your customers. And that is the services and how to do these things, to manage it for them, to do things like hosted exchange migration if they're moving over from one email system to another. But all of the products that we have, you have the opportunity to offer the services around it. Currently in the First for Cloud catalog, we have 18 different vendors and over 300 different products. So there is a great opportunity there for you to expand the amount of offerings that you have. So just to recap on the First for Cloud side, the web store is your branding. It's your opportunity to offer the best of breed product through to your customers, and it's global and it's local. So if you have somebody that says, well, I'm concerned about POPI, I don't want my data overseas, whether it's right or wrong, their belief is their belief, we have local solutions. We have local infrastructure as a service, local platform as a service. If you want a virtual server that is residing locally in South Africa, we can do it. If you want one that is residing overseas, we can do that as well. Really, the time is now to get involved in this. In any annuity-based business, the sooner you start building this business, the sooner that business really grows into something that is quite significant. Importantly, you own your customers. You can launch your web store in as little as 30 days. And we are keen to have a chat further. And you can email me at kevin.derman@firstdistribution.co.za for more information about setting up a meeting to actually discuss that. And we'll be happy to do that. So there's a quick view of what the web store looks like, or a particular web store. We have different flavors. This is a particular basic one. We've redesigned it as well, so we have other options for you. And this is a view of the dashboard as well that your customer would see. And from their dashboard, this would be an IT manager or an admin person looking at the dashboard. They can get an overall view of all of the cloud software that they have purchased from you. And they are able to see what orders have been fulfilled, if there are requests from people in their company that they need to approve. And they can also see the subscription usage. So, for example, they might see they've got 200 licenses of a particular piece of software, and they're only using 150. Well, they can reduce the quantity by 50 for the next license. So, I want you to consider something, and that is, where are you on your cloud journey? Are you selling cloud applications? Are you selling cloud software at the moment? And if you are you selling broad enough? In other words, are you offering a host of services to your customers, because they certainly are demanding a host of services? And if you are only offering one thing, for example, Office 365, then you may be missing out on a lot of the opportunity that's out there as well. Are you addressing the new buyers? And the new buyers are no longer the IT department. The new buyers that are out there are the people sitting in the organization, people sitting in sales and marketing, etc., who are needing the tools to do their job. And lastly, are you simplifying the cloud for your customer? And that's essentially what First for Cloud is. It's the ability for you to give your customer a single portal, your portal, where they can consume all of the cloud software and solutions that they need, and they can control it from one place. So I now want to move into the second part, and that is the focus on one of our solutions that we have in First for Cloud, and that's Attix5. And Attix5, as some of you may know, is a backup as a service product, a great product with a great reputation. And Hein is going to take us through the benefits of utilizing that product and going through the process of how it works, so that you just have an idea of an understanding of what's happening in the background with it and the benefits of Attix5. So Hein, welcome, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Kevin. So this is a general overview on the Attix5 product, and I'm going to try and just show you a little bit of a flexibility of exactly where it fits in and how it could assist you specifically in your journey into the cloud. So the whole focus of the Attix5 product, which has been around for about 16 years now, is to take the stress out of data protection and the business downtime out of recovery. The whole focus of this is to make you and your customers stress less about backups and more about what actually brings in the money at the end of the day. So as a product, we see ourselves as an innovator, always exploring new possibilities and creating better solutions. Now, as we just heard, the cloud is always evolving and changing. And if you keep to the same old way of doing things, you will fall behind. And it's all about us helping customers and keeping track of all the new advancements and new changes to make sure that whatever you need to back up from a business perspective, we've got the ability to cater for it and assist with it. So it's more than just backup software. Creative, the ability to recover data quickly. Some of you might have heard of RTOs and RPOs, recovery time objective and recovery point objectives. So the point is that we're trying to get the data back as quickly as possible so that, again, you don't have downtime, which could potentially mean to not being able to operate as a business. We see ourselves as a thought leader, thinking outside the box, innovative and groundbreaking. This is just some of the customers that have used the Attix5 product or are using the Attix5 product. You might recognize some of the names. They are both international as well as South African. And to add on to that, this is just a nice little map with a distribution of all the Attix5 storage platforms. So although it's a South African product, born and raised here in South Africa, we've got a presence all over the place. We've got storage platforms and data being backed up in South Africa, in the States, in Europe, in Africa itself. So there are no real limitations on where we can protect your data. So things like Poppy, we can cater for it, but we can also cater for customers that have their data residing outside the country. So the core focus of this discussion is Attix5 Pro, which is our flagship product, which specifically caters for backup as a service. So backup and recovery as a service. So this is just a nice little synopsis of how it would fit in. So the idea is that you will back up to the storage platform sitting somewhere in the cloud, and we cater for whether it's virtualized, remote machines, desktops, file servers, mail servers, databases, different operating systems, whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac. We can back up all those different systems through into the cloud. Importantly, with the ability to give you a single interface, a console by which you can manage and check your backups. So you can go and see the status of how much storage is used. You can go and pull reports. You can go and even do restores for customers if it is specifically required. So let's look at some of the components. So obviously, desktop and laptop, server, Enterprise Server Edition, which is the latest addition to our product. And the idea is that this backs up either over an MPLS, over a WAN, over the internet, to a storage platform sitting somewhere in the cloud. And the idea is that that storage platform has the ability to be redundant. So you've got your data sitting in two locations. So the idea is that if something happens, you will always have the ability to get your data back. So what happens on the back end is nothing that you need to worry about, because at the end of the day, we make sure that there's redundancy built into the solution. And that's specifically the mirror platform that I was just talking about. And then again, very importantly, the console. And the console is sitting there right at the bottom right. And the reason for that is that you can manage your backups from anywhere in the world. If you are so inclined to sit on a beach in Mauritius and you're worried about the backups, that whether they're running and whether everything's still up and running, you can log onto the console and you can see the status of your backups and have peace of mind. So the latest version of our product is version 8, and we've codenamed it Peregrine. The reason being it's fast, it caters for millions and millions of files. We have some quite bold claims about it, which I will be expanding on. So we say it's the fastest commercial backup client, specifically catering for millions and millions of files. Backup as fast as hardware will allow. Now, the big bottleneck normally with backups are that you've got software limitations and then you've got hardware limitations. Now, the big problem is that we don't need to worry about the software limitations. We want to just worry about how fast is my server, how fast is my bandwidth, and that's specifically what this feature or this version of the software allows us to do. And then, very importantly, immediately accessing data during recovery. So there's some features that I will be talking about in a moment, which will allow you to access your data without having to wait, the RTO discussion or recovery time objective that I was speaking about earlier. It's secure and reliable, and in essence, it's a secure multi-tenant cloud backup solution. So before I move on, a lot of people have a question about what is multi-tenanted from a backup perspective. How would it fit in? One of the questions I get a lot is my data secure? What happens? I don't want to back up into the cloud. Can anybody access my data? So imagine multi-tenanted cloud solutions as having your own little bit of virtual real estate that you've bought inside a data center or inside the cloud somewhere. It's yours. Nobody else can access it. It's secure. Only you can access it, but it's virtual, sitting in the cloud. And then obviously, lastly, file encryption and deduplication. So we make sure that the footprint on the back end is small so that you only send the necessary data across and you don't send large chunks of data across bandwidth, which would then obviously add extra costs to the solution. So the fastest backup client in the world, Enterprise Server Edition. We've realized that there's limitations on existing backup solutions with regards to the same old technology that was used for the last few years. So we decided we need to change a few things. And we also realized that the requirement for backup has grown. So whereas 5 years ago, a customer would have had, if that, a terabyte with maybe 100,000 files, it's now 40 terabytes with millions and millions of files. So that necessitated a change in the way that we could look at data. So the Enterprise Server Edition is a faster file scanning and streaming backup. It allows us to process multiple disks simultaneously. So a lot of servers these days have got a C drive, a D drive, a E drive, a F drive. So the ability is we can cater and look at those drives and process those drives at the same time, which again allows us to process data faster. Also, no longer do you require to add a whole bunch of memory for to back up data. So the idea is that we utilize what the existing memory in the server is, and we can cater whether you're backing up 40 million files or 400 million files. So we've done some comparisons with ESE against other backup products. So you guys can see the Attix5 ESE and some of our competitors, and these are all European competitors. That's obviously quite big in the European market space. So as you guys can see, the first backup with our ESE took us 12 minutes, where some of our biggest competitors out in the market took 77 minutes and 44 for the fastest. And the second backup, we've dropped down to about 5 minutes. And this is for a selection of data for about 40 gigs. So it's not a large amount of data, but with about 4 million files. So it's lots of really, really small files. So for those of you that's tried to do backups of really, really small files, the more smaller files you have, the slower it's going to take. So this is quite a telling feature, or telling graph, because it shows you from a processing perspective how we can cater for it. So the way that we've designed it is a new engine, faster backups. We've also, because we realize in today's the state of things, encryption and security is a very important thing to worry about. So we've updated the way that we look at encryption. So we're using 256-bit AES GCM encryption. For those of you that in the know would know that 256-bit AES encryption is the de facto standard that a lot of industries use. The American Department of Defense have standardized on that. GCM is just a new way of looking at it, and basically does the encryption both on the client side and then obviously also on the back-end side. So the crux of this is that your data will be encrypted for the entire lifetime of the data, from it being backed up from the server itself. So latest and fastest encryption technology, data integrity of backups ensured during backup. This is very, very important, and we can guarantee the restore of the data. Okay, so very importantly, because this is a cloud solution, the first backup will obviously be a full backup, and afterwards we just send the incremental changes. So by using this encryption methodology, we make sure that the encryption of that the data integrity being sent, even though it's just the changes of the data, will still be intact, so you can still recover the data, whether it's today's, yesterday's, or the days before. Reduced recovery point objective. So it's faster backups. You can do more frequent backups. You reduce the data loss. And you reduce the risk. So the idea is that if you, for example, have a selection of data that you want to protect every half an hour, you can actually run through it with the Enterprise Server Edition. It will scan through it every half an hour, and you will be ensured that you can recover to that half an hour period. Virtual Restore. So Virtual Restore is an interesting concept, because what it means is sometimes if you want to do a traditional restore of data, you need to firstly go and select the data that you want to restore. You browse to it. You then need to go and restore it. Your line speed is obviously the limitation. When you finally restored it, then you need to go and mount it. So if it's a SQL database, you've now restored your SQL database. Now you need to go and mount it up. Then you can access the data. So a good 2-3 hours can go by until you actually have access to your data. So from declaring a disaster to actually getting your data back, some time will go past. So virtual restore means that if you've got a decent internet connection and you've got the ability to see the backend server, which you would being backing up into the cloud, you will have immediate data access without having to restore it. So imagine mounting your data from a backend server with the existing encryption key and password. You've got the ability to actually mount it as a virtual drive, and you've got the ability to browse for the data that you want and only pull out of it what you actually require. Because let's face it, you might not want a whole 100 gigs worth of data. You've backed up 100 gigs worth of data, but you might only need 1 gig or 2 gigs worth of data critically right now. So this gives you the ability to access what is important to you right now immediately via virtual restore. No additional hardware is required, and backup audits and data mining can be accomplished without requiring a full restore of the data. Snapshot and HSM improvements. So quickly, HSM stands for Hierarchical Storage Management, and it's basically a fancy way of saying backup archiving. So keeping your backups for a longer period of time. So Snapshot is also the ability, you don't want to necessarily send large chunks of data for the initial backup. So we've got the ability to do it to do a seed onto a hard drive and then ship that hard drive to a central location, or you can even do it across the internet connectivity. But seeing as we live in South Africa and we know that bandwidth is what it is, we've got the ability to cater for both. So the important thing is, what happens if you've done a snapshot of your very precious data and your server crashes while this snapshot is on its way to the data center to be uploaded? So no problem. We've got the ability to restore directly from that snapshot backup. So even though you haven't imported the data yet, that's not a problem. We've got the data on the hard drive. So as soon as you've actually done the snapshot, you can actually access the data again. And the same principle applies for HSM, because we can do the same functionality for archiving, backup archiving, which means that if you have a requirement to keep the data for 5 or 10 years, you can store it onto any type of media and you can restore directly from that media, whether it's a hard drive or a NAS or a SAN device sitting somewhere. Windows image level backup. So as we are progressing into the cloud, we're finding that the requirement for backups are changing as well. People want to have a whole image backed up. So a lot of people are going virtual. So they're no longer just having physical servers, they're having virtual, whether it's Hyper-V or VMware, or a permutation of some of the other solutions that's out there. So Windows image backup gives us the ability to do bare metal recovery, system state, but also item level recovery. So it's a new way of looking at data. It's a new way of looking at images, and it gives us the ability to do a bare metal backup from within your server, but the ability to not just recover the data, but pull a whole image out if that is actually required. And that saves time, specifically when you need to recover. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hein. Some really interesting information over there, and certainly a great product, and I can see a lot of development has gone into it and a lot of changes along the way as well. So some of the things and questions that have come up in us supplying this product to our resellers is often people are asked, well, how do they go about doing this? You know, how would somebody say, I've got a business and let's say it's a 20-person organization, and I need to back up the information in that organization. I've got 20 different individual machines in the organization. I've got a couple servers, and now I want to start with that. So perhaps if we can just decide about and just step the partners through what exactly would their customer need to do.
Yes, so the most important thing to start with is to scope what a solution is or what you require to back up. Because I think the biggest problem in most environments is that they know they have a requirement to back up data, but they don't necessarily know what data to back up. The thing is that there's also the problem of centralization and decentralization. So by that I mean that some of the data might be kept on a server, some of the data might be kept on a desktop or laptop. You might have roaming users, so every customer's profile is different. So normally what we suggest to customers is to find out what their IT policy is. So we might find that some customers have an IT policy to state that we centralize everything. So an example of this would be everybody needs to save stuff on the share drive. If they don't save it on the share drive, it won't be protected. Other customers don't have that luxury. They travel around, therefore the data needs to be protected on all the various laptops. So what we would require is you need to scope a solution first. As soon as you know where the data resides, that's important. So for example, on the desktop and laptops of your sales staff that's traveling around, what you then need to know is you need to know how much data is sitting on every machine that you need to protect. So we look at the amount of data that you're protecting, so the amount of data that you're selecting. So there's no hidden formula about what can you back up, what can you recover. We say you've got 50 gigs worth of data on that laptop, you've got 100 gigs worth of data on that server, you add it all up, and we then are going to look at that, and that's how we're going to calculate what you're going to be backing up. So it's obviously we will take note of the amount of desktops and servers in the environment. So we obviously know you'll load a client on every one of those machines. But the important thing is, firstly, go and calculate the amount of size that you want to back up. That will then be given through to us, and we'll be able to give you a quote on that, on the amount of how much it will cost you. And then we'll be able to give you the clients that will allow you to back up. And it's obviously then just installing the clients on the various machines.
Okay, great. So some of the, just to talk through how the process would work, a customer of yours, and you being the partner, would log into your web store, and there they would go and say, right, I'm looking for a backup as a service product or a backup product, and they would select Attix5 as their backup, and essentially what's going to happen over there is it's going to be the amount of the size of the data that they're going to utilize. So you're going to be billed on a monthly basis depending on how much data has been backed up. So the customer doesn't need to know essentially upfront exactly how much data it's going to be. They'll be billed at the end of the month for that amount of data, and the necessary clients will be downloaded as well. Now, one of the things that Hein mentioned was this ability of snapshots, and essentially, if anybody says, right, we want to move our backup into the cloud, that first backup is the most important thing to get through. And there's obviously a large amount of data, and to get that data through as bandwidth could be an issue. So you have that ability to then deliver a disk, and we'd have that disk and all that information uploaded. Now, normally, there is a charge that's associated with that. Now, this data is being hosted with Pamoja, and Pamoja has very kindly actually said there's no charge for that initial import of that data, which is a fantastic service, and really something that I encourage you as our partners to take advantage of. So what it means is I wouldn't go to your customer and say, well, we're not going to charge for that first upload or for that intake of data, but it gives you the ability to say, right, we're going to charge a nominal amount for that, but there's no charge to you for importing of that data. So something that you can charge for as a service, get those drives delivered through to Pamoja, and that snapshot would be uploaded, and then the incrementals would go off after that. So really an easy way of doing that. If there are any questions at this time, you can please type those questions in, and we'll gladly answer those questions. So you can just let us know if there are any questions, and I'll give you a few minutes, a few seconds just to type those in. Perhaps while we're waiting to see if there are any questions, one of the things that I often find is that things like backup and security are almost, they've always were perceived as grudge purchases in the end. How do you guys actually deal with that type of comment?
Yeah, we get that a lot. And we also find that normally the best time the customer wants to buy the solution is when they've just lost their data. So the crux of the matter is to look at it in a similar way of looking at insurance. So it's one of those things that you buying the peace of mind to not worry about if something happens, you will not be able to recover. So Gartner did a study a few years ago, and it's obviously changed since, but they stated about 5 years ago that 80% of businesses in the States would go down because they haven't protected their data. That stat has since then obviously gone up quite tremendously. So the idea being is looking at selling backups as selling insurance to the extent that if something happens to your data, you hope it doesn't, but if something happens, you've got the ability to recover and continue operations as normal.
Okay. If you can just read out that question, you have a question over there. If you can read it out and just maybe answer that.
So the first question is the Attix5 Pro an agent or agentless solution? Thinking of virtual environments, is the entire VM backed? Okay. So it is an agent, a specific agent solution that you can load on every machine. And there are actually a few permutations that we need to look at here. So we've got the ability on, let's say, a Hyper-V environment that you can actually load Attix5 on the host level, on the hypervisor level, and you can literally back up the images. So for a scenario like that, it will be imageless. It will be an image agent sitting at the top that will back up all the images. For other environments, you will be able to actually load a agent inside that, whether it's a physical or virtual, and then through that bare metal functionality that I was speaking about, you've got the ability to either just back up the data or back up a whole image inside the virtual machine.
Right, so I hope that answer that question. One of the interesting things is that, yeah, although there are separate agents that you could use, it is a flat rate of per gig, so it doesn't really require you to pay for those individual agents. That you may or may not require for your different scenarios over there. And I think that actually is one of the beauties of the solution, is that it really is simple. It's just a per gig price. The current pricing that we have is a 10 Rand per gig, yeah. So it's around 10 Rand per gig, which is really, really well priced in the market. So great opportunity there. If there are any more questions, please do type them in. We will be online for a few minutes more, and we can answer those questions for you as well. So again, just to reiterate how it fits in from a First for Cloud perspective, is you would come to us as a reseller and say, right, we would like a First for Cloud web store. We would work with you and just design that store for you. We have various different templates that are available. You then go into the First for Cloud catalog and you pick and choose what cloud solutions and what software you want to resell. And there we have a range of things from CRM, ERP, accounting systems, backup as a service, Office 365. We have various different security solutions, Kaspersky, McAfee, etc. And you would really design your store for whatever makes sense for your business and whatever products you are comfortable in selling. Then once that store is up, you direct your customers through to your store. It could be your current customers, or you could go out and you could do digital marketing and drive customers towards your website. And you can then get additional sales and annuity revenue through that. The customers themselves have two options in terms of how they make their purchase. We have payment gateway integration, so they could pay via credit card. And this credit card payment goes direct to you as the reseller, or it could be an account, and if you want to have an account for your customer, you would run that account and you would bill them monthly on that. But again, the relationship is between you, the reseller, and the customer. So really a good benefit over there. We have another question that has come up for Hein, and that's with incremental backups, is this block level or is it file level?
Cool, you guys keep me on my toes this morning. So specifically the first backup, I'm just going to run through the process a bit. So the first backup is obviously a full backup. What we do is we actually look at the hash value of a file. So we go and calculate a footprint of what all the files is that needs to be changed. What we're then going to do for the subsequent backups, we are going to look at it we're literally going to send the deltas across. So in essence, we are going to send blocks of data across. So it won't be if, for example, Word or Doc changed yesterday and we're resending that file, we're not going to send a full copy of it. We're literally just going to send the changes on that file, so the block with the change of that file. The delta blocking functionality that we use allows us to do really cool things like streaming the backup across a bandwidth to obviously get the backup through as quickly as possible. But I think the crux in essence, the answer to your question is incremental backups. It's going to be block level. We look at the hash value, we compare it, and we just send the changes on a block level through to the server.
Thanks, Hein, and thanks for that question as well. Right, it seems that there are no more questions that are coming through. Hold on, I think we do have another question. Okay, so let's just cover that one as well. So the question is that after the initial backup, the full subsequent backups would be incremental. Would restoring an individual VM then be possible from the single incremental copy?
Okay, so it's another good question. So what it means is that we don't like the word incremental backups, because it gives you that perception that you need to do like we used to do in the bad old days, with having to restore first a full copy and then a whole bunch of incrementals. We call it a synthetic full backup. So what that means is, and that's basically just fancy speak to say that the software on the back end will keep track of a full backup and all the incremental backups that add up on that. So for example, if I backed up on the 1st of February and I need to recover from the 6th of February, the software will take the 1st and apply the layers for every day that we backed up and present you a copy as it was on the 6th. So you don't need to go and restore first to first and then the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th, etc. You will be able to restore from drilling down the date that you backed up, and you will restore a copy as it was on that specific day. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Hein. Okay, great. So really, I would just encourage you that if there is any further questions, you may very easily send those through to me. I'm going to put my email address up on the screen in a moment, and we certainly will get those answered. But one thing's for sure is that the way of buying is definitely moved to the cloud buying method, and the way of doing business has definitely changed. So we see that if you're in the IT business, that the revenue is moving, and it's moving very swiftly to cloud business. It's moving what they call the third platform, and that's the area of cloud. It's the area of mobility. It's the area of big data and analytics, and it's social business. And that third platform, IDC has made a statement that they say that by 2020, 98% of all IT revenue will be in this area. And I think that's an incredibly bold statement to make. And if you're in this business, you need to start considering, well, how do you prepare for this, and how do you start moving your business? So there's my address up on the screen. That's kevin.derman@firstdistribution.co.za. You can find me on Twitter on @KevinDD. Please also do find me on LinkedIn. And if you want Hein's email address, it's Hein.Matthee, it's HEIN.MATTHEE @attix5.com. And Attix is with a double T. So you can email either of us if you require more information, or if you would like us to come and chat to you about your own First for Cloud web store. With that, I'd like to thank you for attending today. I wish you a great Friday for the rest of the day, and have a great weekend. And we look forward to chatting to you next week. If you have enjoyed this webinar, next week we will be doing a repeat of a webinar, which is being brought back by popular demand, and that is on how to spin up a virtual server. Just taking you through the process of from choosing the virtual server to actually getting it up and running. What does it look like, and how would you actually load your software onto that server? So really very practical and a great webinar. So thanks again for joining, and have a great day.